Welcome to Spend Matters. Today I'm fortunate to have Chief Jockey of Horses for Sources, Phil Furst, visiting the Spend Matters office in Chicago. Phil is an esteemed analyst when it comes to BPO. So esteemed, in fact, that he decided after a brief stint on the provider side to start his own firm, returning to his roots as an analyst. Very quickly, Horses for Sources has grown up, and even though we can all chuckle at the name sometimes, it is a real serious research firm. And what I mean by that isn't that it is copying existing models out there, but in a matter of months, Phil has hired an exceptional team and ramped up coverage in a number of areas, including procurement BPO. Coincidentally, Phil and I will be collaborating on a procurement BPO research series in the coming quarters on Spend Matters and Horses for Sources. But in the meantime, I wanted to pick his brain for a few minutes on what he sees emerging in the procurement BPO market. But first, Phil, if you could give us a few words on what you're seeing in general out there in BPO and the inspiration behind Horses.
Okay, so we started a blog 3.5 years ago, and we had a British expression which is horses for courses, which means certain horses run better on certain courses. And we felt with outsourcing it was a similar scenario. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. It's not the right thing for everybody. So we came up with this rather goofy name one night, Horses for Sources, for a blog, and it kind of stuck. And then 3.5 years later, we've now gained 34,000 subscribers, which has gone up from 20,000 since we launched the firm this year. We have a huge hit rate of about 80,000 to 100,000 web visitors per month, and we now drive a research firm based on that name.
Excellent, excellent. Now I know you've been tracking procurement BPO among other areas for a while, and in some ways it's been the stepchild of BPO areas in terms of adoption.
Sure.
But if you look at current trends and what the numbers are showing, what's your high-level view?
That's a great question. So at the beginning of this year, we conducted some deep surveying of what buyers were telling us around their BPO plans. And people were very keen to move into BPO type relationships very quickly coming off the recession. But what we've seen, I think, is the recovery happening quicker than people expected. And there's almost a bit of lethargy from the recession now where companies are putting more decisions on back burners, taking their time. We're seeing a lot more incremental, small engagements happening. And I think we're seeing a more slow, experimental move into these types of engagements. I don't think we're seeing a big bang growth curve. We are seeing a lot of interest. We're seeing a lot of smaller contracts being signed, but we generally see a slow growth, maybe sort of 10% for the next couple of years. And this isn't a big bang thing. It's a journey some companies go on as they globalize their functions. So.
Gotcha. So let me ask you one question, which I've seen a bit of, and I'd love to get your impression. So it used to be, if you were going to do procurement BPO or anything of the sort in terms of process outsourcing, that you would hire an advisory firm, and it would go to RFP. It would be a big engagement and project. When I talk to folks considering procurement BPO today, as well as the BPO providers, I see a lot of deals circumventing that traditional ecosystem.
Sure.
Is that a short-term trend or a long-term trend?
It's a great question, and in reality, providers have never been that prevalent in big procurement deals anyway. And a lot of the reason is because a lot of the deals which the sourcing advisors have been brokering have traditionally been ones which involve large amounts of labour being moved into lower cost locations. We call it labour arbitrage. In procurement, that isn't so much the case. It's often smaller numbers of people. There's a greater need to invest in technology and processes, and the upside is more on savings through managed spend and not through quick savings made through labour arbitrage. So that's one of the reasons why it's been more of a specialist approach. We see more of the management consultants involved in procurement. We see a lot of Kearney, for example. We see a little bit of Deloitte, but we haven't seen so many of the traditional advisors. Beyond some deals we've seen with Equiterra a little bit and maybe Everest Group.
Gotcha. So final question. I'm going to ask you to put your name on the line here.
Sure.
Longer term, is this more of a play? I won't call it labor-driven, but is it more of a play better suited for those with offshore expertise or onshore, from a provider angle?
That's a great question. I think it has to be a mixture of both, and you miss out nearshore. So I think when you look at procurement, we're actually seeing all of these nearshore models working where we've seen companies use Latin America, for example, Eastern Europe, countries like Hungary and Poland, in addition to India, for many of these processes. And a lot of this is because you need to have a lot of inherent onshore knowledge. You need to have the ability for your delivery staff to speak directly with buyers and other procurement people, and that's why we're having to see these hybrid mixes of on-site, near-shore, and sometimes offshore in these global models. So I think it has to be a combination of all three.
Gotcha, excellent. Well, Phil, thanks so much for stopping by today.
Yeah.
Look forward to working together and reading horses and the cynical, wry humor you always bake into it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in today to Spend Matters.